Morning.
I think we have one missing, but welcome.
Good morning. Yes, welcome. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
So it sounds like we have a shorter meeting today, which will be nice.
Brendan, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Besides the board members, who else usually attends? Is there somebody from the, I mean, these are mainly stipulations. Is there somebody from the assessor's office?
Yes,
And
we'll have
somebody-
several staff from the assessor's office as well as members of the public. Here as well.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone.
Morning.
Today is February 14th, Valentine's Day. Welcome to the Tax Assessment Appeals Board, number 2. I believe that Brennan will take roll call. We will get started.
You. All right. Thank you. And we do have our newly appointed board members joining us today. So first, I'm going to call the roll of our voting board members for today. Board Member Ferris.
Present.
Board Member Little.
Present.
And Board Member Sisk.
Present.
And then for our non-voting board members, we have Board Member Cam.
Present.
Board Member Chung.
Present.
Board Member Farino.
Present.
And Board Member Lunetta.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Are we ready, Brendan?
Just a moment. Once you see the flag appear on the screen, we will be ready. We're ready.
All right. Repeat after me. I pledge
Allegiance
to the
to the flag
of the United
States of America
and to the
to the republic
for which
for which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
a
nation,
nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are we going to do the oath now, Brandon, or how are we going to work?
Yeah, we're gonna swear in the new board members to their appointments.
Okay.
Actually, let's see. Thank you for bearing with me. What has happened here? Sorry, just a moment. This computer is not cooperating today. I don't know why I'm frozen. All right. I apologize. This isn't working how it's supposed to today. All right, we'll just go with it. I'll now place the new board members under oath. Please repeat after me in just a moment. So as an officer, member, or an employee of Assessment Appeals Board number 1, number 2, or the hearing officer, we are going to be swearing in the existing and newly appointed board members to their new terms of office. Please repeat after me and raise your right arm. I state your name.
Brian.
Anthony Farino.
Do solemnly affirm that the test that I will support
Do solemnly
Do solemnly affirm that I will support
and defend the Constitution of the State of California
and defend the Constitution of the State of California
California.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. Welcome to your new terms on the Assessment Appeals Board. That completes item 4. So Chair Sisk, item 6 for administration of the oath to the participants, we will get to as needed.
Correct. Okay. I believe now is time for the agenda review.
Yes, for agenda review, we are going to jump to number 88. And clerk of the board recommends approval of the agenda review by the Assessment Appeals Board. The agenda review consists of the following agenda items. Item number 88, no, sorry, 84. 84. Application number 21-10111, applicant Christopher Moeller, continue to March 28th, 2022, pending receipt of an original stipulation. Item number 85, application number 21-10113, applicant Los Angeles Entertainment Trust, removed from the agenda due to submission of a withdrawal. Item number 86, application number 21-10119, applicant BM Properties, removed from the agenda due to submission of a withdrawal. And number 87, application number 21-10121, applicant Marguerite Heights Trust, continue to March 28th, 2022, pending receipt of an original stipulation. That completes the agenda review. Recommended action is to approve as read.
I so move.
Second.
Thank
All right.
you.
For the vote, board member Ferris,
Aye.
board member Little,
Aye.
board member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now it's time for public comments. Do we have any public comments or comments from the public, Brendan?
Let's see. It looks like we do not have anybody that is not here for an agenda item. Let's see. Yes, everyone present is for an agenda item today, so we can move on to board comments.
Okay. Any comments from the board?
Yes,
And I wanted to welcome all the new board members officially. Welcome to the board. We greatly appreciate your addition. We're looking forward to forging relationships with all of you and getting you up to speed in this crazy world we live in.
I do have a comment. Tony Farino here. It's regarding the appeal on 680 178-075.
Right.
And
I-
I don't know if you've got my email on
We
that.
did
but
receive your email. I believe we'll address that on its own a little bit down the line. But
Okay.
We do. We have that. Yes, we're aware of your lack of something to do over the weekend.
Well,
Like I
you
said, we
didn't have
welcome
to
your
bring that
addition. This is
along.
excellent.
So if any of the other board members would like to introduce themselves or anything, if anyone would like to speak, just hit the raise hand button on Zoom and we'll address the board members.
I don't have anything to say, but I'm wondering, I don't see that icon.
Oh,
It's on the bottom,
Oh, here.
all the way on the bottom.
Mr. Frino, you might be on an iPad, or those are a
Yes,
little
I am.
tricky. So no worries.
Okay, so I guess I have to hit it to get to it.
We can hear you.
Okay.
You
I
can
just
go
was
right ahead.
wondering.
Yeah, I can kind of just introduce people and let you guys introduce yourselves if you want. I can do
Sure.
that. I can start. How about if I just start and we'll just go through the line. My name is Brian Sisk. I'm an appraiser for 23 years. I have an SRA and RRS designation from the Institute. I've been on the appeals board, I think, for 9 years now. Something like that. And that's about it. So next we'll just go down and from my order, Anthony Farino.
Yes,
Tell us about yourself.
I'm go by Tony. I worked for the Santa Barbara County Assessor's Office for over 30 years. I wasn't on the appeals board there, but I did present the cases for the assessor to the board for about 10 or 15 years. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chung Cam.
Hi, my name is Chung. I work as an audit manager for Farber Haas and Hurley, which is located in Oxnard. I also have a property management firm, and I've been a real estate investor for the last 20 years. So really happy to join the board.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Norman Chung.
Mr. Chung, you're muted.
You're on mute.
Oh, thank you for having me here. My name is Norman Chung. Being a fee appraiser for 8 years and being a reviewer for 4 years. So I am a Appraisal Institute member, MAI, ARGRS, and also Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyor, MRICS. And also I have CAHTA designation. That's for hotels, because I review a lot of hotels and gas stations. Yeah, that's about it. And thank you for having me here. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, Mr. Bradley Lunetta.
Yeah, I'm Brad Lunetta. I've been appraising for about 26 years. I am a member of the Appraisal Institute with my MAI designation. It was actually Brian who kind of introduced me to this opportunity. So thank you, Brian. It's going to be interesting, if nothing else. Maybe some fun. I don't know. We'll see about that. And yeah, I'm just glad to be here and look forward to getting to know each and all of you. And I just want to thank Brendan for helping with this process, making it so easy for someone who's coming in without any knowledge of what we're doing. Thank you, Brendan. Appreciate that. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
All right, Ms. Ferris, you want to tell us about yourself?
Sure. My name's Mary Ferris, and I am just a lowly real estate broker. I've been with the board for 28 years, and you learn a lot. So welcome aboard.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Little.
Good morning and welcome to the new board members. We're happy you hung in there through this long process and look forward to working with all of you. I've been a real estate broker for about 40 years and an assessment appeals member since 1994. And yes, I agree with Mary. You do learn a lot, and it seems like every case has its own unique personality, and it is always very interesting. So look forward to it.
Well, thank you very much. And then we also have our legal counsel, Miss Emily Gardner, who eavesdrops on us quite a bit.
Yes, eavesdropping right now.
Yep. Okay, so I think that takes care of introductions.
Yes.
Do we want to start rolling forward? We have, should we go into the regular agenda right now, or do we want to deal with the couple of large value stipulations, Brandon?
Yeah, and those are actually near the front of the agenda, so we can go ahead and start with items 9 through 13. And
Okay.
just for the benefit of the new board members and the members of the public today, it's a light agenda, so we'll get through very quickly, but we're going to take things a little slower and provide some explanations for the education of our new board members. So first, for items 9 through 13 is a request for approval of a large reduction stipulation agreement. These were emailed to the board members on Thursday for their review. Any reduction totaling over a cumulative total of $5 million to any single taxpayer is placed on the board's agenda as a separate discussion item. Should your board have any questions about the stipulation, and if your board does not have any questions, the recommended action is to approve.
I so moved.
I second.
Thank you.
All right, for the vote, board member Ferris,
Yes.
board member Little,
Aye.
board member Sisk.
Yes.
And for the benefit of the board members, when we return to in-person meetings, we do not do a roll call vote, but for remote meetings and connection stability issues, we do call each board member's vote one by one to ensure that they're actually voting yes and that they haven't lost connection or something like that. So that is why we will do a manual vote for each item. So moving on to item 14, application 211098 for Duesenberg Investment Co. This is another request for approval of a large reduction stipulation agreement.
Now, this is also an opportunity to ask questions if there's something that's come up when we review these stipulations. And I think we might have some concerns on this one. So, Mr. Farino, this would be your chance to ask the assessor's office.
Chair Sisk, I actually want to clarify. I believe the questions are at items 55 through 83.
Oh, sorry. I saw Duesenberg. So
yeah, they both have Duesenberg, but they're unrelated applicants.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
So this is
which one is this that we're looking at for
For item
Duesenberg?
13. It's Duesenberg Investment Company.
Is
It's
that
not.
the-
It's not associated with the Duesenberg in Thousand Oaks, I believe.
Right, I think this was isn't this the dealership?
Yeah, I don't.
yes, this is a car dealership in the Thousand Oaks Auto Center.
Yeah, I had a couple questions on this one to the assessor's office.
Sure, go ahead.
Is there somebody there from the assessor's office?
Yes, Ms. Hill is
I
online.
wondered, I noticed on the roll, there was no personal property. Usually a dealership, when they'll have computers, desk, whatever, and the personal property will be attached to the real property. So I was wondering if this was a shell build out that then was leased to the dealership.
Good morning, Brooke Hill representing the assessor's office. I believe this was due to new construction of a dealership. I don't know the answer to your question specifically without looking it up, but I would suspect that probably it just hadn't been filled up with the things like that yet to be assessed, and probably in the subsequent year, or it was assessed separately on the unsecured roll, so possibly leased. But I don't have a specific answer to your question. If you'd like to trail this, I could do a little bit of research and find
Well,
out where
reason
the
I
personal
a-
property assessment was.
The reason I ask is that it has a different name than the dealership, and I'm wondering if they built a shell building and such things as the interior walls, dividers, and the flooring, and maybe even the ceiling were paid for, because this is a cost approach, basically, were paid for by the tenant. That was my only question.
So typically for those types of items, like the demising walls, the flooring, the lighting, those would all be picked up as improvements. The things you mentioned earlier, like the computers, the desks, the chairs, those would be picked up as personal property. So that's where we would, regardless of whether the tenant paid for those improvement items, they would still be picked up on the secured roll as improvements.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions?
No.
Okay, so looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second,
For the vote, Board Member Ferris,
yes.
Board Member Little,
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, application 20-11108 through 20-11110, Milan, Tuscany LLC.
We have Chris Koenig of Pacific Property Advisors on Zoom for this item. Mr. Koenig, please unmute.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Board. This is Chris.
Are you prepared to move forward today, sir?
No, I'm actually requesting to postpone this. I had previously had it postponed from December and was hoping to get this information back, but unfortunately between me and my family and then about half of the applicants' management, COVID kind of ran rampant through. So I'm just finally now this week should have that data to be able to deliver to the assessor. So I'd like to request that we postpone to just the next one. It's on like March hearing.
Okay, any comments from the, oh, yes. Please continue.
Just one other thing. What the other thing that I've been working on with Brennan is we also have 2019 appeals for these parcels that I previously requested to do in person here.
Okay.
Yes, so we can go ahead and consolidate all 3 years to the same date. So for all members of the public on Zoom today on the screen, we've placed the options for rescheduling. So we have March 28th or April 25th available. Mr. Koenig, did you have a preference between those 2 dates? Oh, let's see. Sorry, Mr. Koenig, it looked like you had lost your...
Yeah. I had lost a little connection. Sorry, I think April's that gives plenty of time. And then administratively, there's stuff that you and I have to do to get those hearings, the in-person ones. Okay.
Yes, your email from Friday is sufficient, so we'll consolidate everything to April 25th, pending any comments from the assessor.
Yes, any comments from the assessor's office?
Yes, the assessor is still looking for information on this case. We would request that the board order the data to be provided within 30 days of today.
Okay, looking for a motion to postpone to April 25th with proviso that any data requested by the assessor's office be provided within 30 days.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Koenig, I believe the next item is yours as well.
Yeah, same request, same.
Okay,
and I'm happy with the same stipulation of 30 days.
Let's let Brandon get caught up.
Thank you.
Screen, and then we'll move forward.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, things are not moving very smoothly here.
That's okay. We're taking our time. That's all right. We don't have
all right. I'm ready for the next item.
Okay, next application 20-11111 and 20-11118 Sv Marketplace Llc. Okay, Mr. Koenig, is it really roughly the same?
Same, yeah, same. Yep.
Okay. Assessor's office, any comments?
Same here too.
Okay. Looking for a motion to postpone to April 25th with proviso that any data requested by the assessor's office be provided within 30 days.
So moved.
second,
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good day.
Just a moment. All right, and for the vote, Board Member Ferris,
yes.
Board Member Little,
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you. And just for the benefit of the new board members, so the proviso for requested data that the board just ordered, the assessor requests information that they're entitled to from the applicants under Revenue and Taxation Code Section 441D. And when that information has not been provided at this point, then the board usually adds a proviso with a deadline for that data to be provided. So when the board is ordering that the data be provided within the next 30 days, that is giving the applicant the deadline to comply with the assessor's written request for information. Just wanted to put that clarification out there.
Well, thank you, Brendan. Okay, next application 20-11208, Kane and Oliver.
Yes, this stipulation was emailed to your board this morning for review. We had continued it several times before, so that's why I wanted to send it off for your late review and approval. If you've had a chance to review it. If you haven't had a chance to review it, we can continue to a new hearing date.
I did receive it and I reviewed it.
I did as well.
Same.
Any comments or questions?
No.
None.
Okay, looking for a motion to approve.
So moved?
Second?
All right, for the vote, Board Member Ferris,
Yes.
Board Member Little,
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next application 20-11213, Vivian McNulty.
Yes, we have Debbie Deutsch on Zoom for this item.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Are you prepared to move forward today?
No, we are in the process of obtaining an evaluation, and unfortunately due to time restraints with the holidays and just backlog, we haven't been able to complete that and get it finalized. So we're hoping for a continuance so that we can have all that information for a hearing.
Okay, do you have a date in mind?
Unfortunately, the April date does not work because I have a conflict with the trial that day. And I want to make sure there's plenty of time to get a valuation.
Okay.
The assessor more than 30 days to review that. So is there a date after the April date?
Yeah, let's ask Brendan if we do have a date.
Yes, let me look at that. We have May 9th available.
So unfortunately, May 9th is that trial I'm in is pushed out, and that's another
Okay.
trial date.
June 6th.
June 6th is available to me, yes.
Okay. And just to clarify, I believe you wanted to, there was a legal issue you wanted to challenge with this appeal, correct? As well as the valuation?
There is a legal issue. I did speak with my clients though, and we feel that it might be best to present the legal and factual issue all at once because there might be overlap with the facts. And so, especially if we're continuing it to June, that was June 6th, right? If we're continuing June 6th, we should have ready the factual and legal to present at one time.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Sell.
May I interject? So this is actually a rural case. Unfortunately, the assessor's office doesn't have enough staff to dedicate a specific rural appraiser to the appeals team. So we do have to coordinate with the valuation team in order to get the valuation done. June 6th, I think is a little bit problematic for us because that does coincide with our roll close deadline. If the applicant would be agreeable, if we could go out past that date to make sure we have, the assessor has plenty of time and is not in conflict with our roll close deadline, we would appreciate it. And, you know, hopefully we'll be able to resolve this outside of the hearing, but that date is a little problematic for a rural case.
This is Debbie Deutsch, and I'm fine with that.
And Ms. Hill, are you okay with combining the legal issue and the valuation hearing into one hearing?
I wasn't aware there was what is the legal issue on this?
The legal issue has to do with, this is a Prop 6090 pre-Prop 19, and which part of the property is being allocated as a home versus whether it should be allocated otherwise.
I see. Would you be agreeable to bifurcating that? Because if we did resolve the Prop 6090 issue, perhaps the valuation would no longer be an issue.
I think we were open to bifurcating, but I think I would still want to present some facts that we're getting an appraiser on, such as what is the acreage for the orchards and such. So I would still need some time to get that information.
As far as typically when we have a legal issue and a valuation issue, typically we'll bifurcate those when we present them to the board. Now you may need to rely on some valuation data, but typically we would just ask them to make a determination on the legal issue in the first hearing. And then in the second hearing, if there's still any outstanding issues, we would do a valuation case. Say if they decided that no, the Prop 6090 doesn't apply, then we would just do valuation after.
I understand that. That's fine with me. But again, I just need sufficient time because I do think there's going to be overlap in evidence and we need to get that information for the legal as well.
Agreed.
So do you want to maintain June 6th then for that bifurcated issue?
I still have a little bit of a problem with the rural staff helping on June 6th. Even with that, we'll need them for that issue as well.
Do we have
So the board will be going into summer recess after that. So then the soonest we'd have available is October 31st.
I guess that would be okay. I mean, we really don't have any other choice and we do need to have sufficient time to get what we need to present that. My only question is maybe we can not agree to bifurcate today and deal with that later as to whether we'll just present everything at that time.
Give me just a moment. Sorry, I don't know if this is coming on its deadline for the 2-year resolution period. Let's see, we had to resolve this appeal. Are you willing to waive the 2-year period that this appeal needs to be resolved in, Ms. Deutsch?
Yes.
Okay.
And wait, we're continuing this to October 31st?
Correct. October 31st.
Is it only every month? There's nothing like November 7th or something?
We have, after that would be December 5th is our final hearing for the year.
October 31st. Okay, and we'll know by then whether it's in person or via Zoom still?
Yes, we should know by then.
Okay. All right. Okay. October 31st is fine.
All right. After the hearing, I will provide you with the required paperwork for waiving the 2-year resolution period.
Okay.
And Ms. Hill, did you want the data 60 days before that hearing?
That was right about what I was going to request. Thank you.
I was going to get there too. Okay.
All right. So Chair Sisk, what we've ended up with is a request to continue to October 31st with the proviso that requested data be provided to the assessor at least 60 days prior to that date.
I so move.
Second.
Thank you for the vote. Board Member Ferris.
Yes.
Board Member Little.
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Deutsch. You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next item, application 20-11282, Liberty Finance Partnership. Has anyone checked in for this?
Yes, we have Ken Smotries for this item.
Good morning, sir. Are you prepared to move forward today?
I'd like to request a continuance to the April 25th.
Okay. Any comments from the assessor's office?
The assessor would request the data be provided within 30 days of today.
Okay. Looking for a motion to postpone to April 25th with the proviso that any data requested by the assessor's office be provided within 30 days.
Moved.
Second.
Thank you.
For the vote, Board Member Ferris.
Yes.
Board Member Little.
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next application 20-11517 through 20-11532, MRT Services Company.
Yes, Chair Sisk, and we can also handle items 45 through 52 simultaneously. Applications 21-10714 through 21-10721. They had a little bit different case history. That's why they're separated out on your agenda. But there's a request for approval of a multi-parcel, multi-year large reduction stipulation agreement. This was emailed to your board last Thursday. And unless there's any questions, recommended action is to approve.
Okay. Does the board have any comments or questions?
No.
No. Okay, looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
For the vote, Board Member Ferris,
Yes.
Board Member Little,
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next application, 20-11636 and 20-11637. Dirigio Brothers, 4 LLC.
We have Jeffrey Gaida of Weinstack Mannion on the phone for this item.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Good. Are you prepared to move forward today?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and about how long will your presentation take?
Or probably 15 minutes.
Okay. And to the assessor's office, are you prepared to move forward today?
Good morning. It's FN Escolar with the assessor's office. AJS, we are ready to move forward. It will take about 15 to 20 minutes, our presentation.
Okay, we will trail this to the end. We'll probably hear your case first, and we'll get back to this one.
And can I ask, Mr. Gaida, you're not requesting written findings of fact, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And Mr. Azcora, is the assessor requesting written findings of fact?
I'll answer that. Yes, we are.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Chair Sisk.
Next item, application 20-11669 through 20-11697, North Duesenberg Association, LLC.
Yes, and I believe there's some questions on this. This is another request for approval of a large reduction stipulation agreement. And maybe Ms. Hill can give us a little overview of some of the things on this stipulation before we have follow-up questions.
Sure. Brendan had let me know there was a few questions. I wrote a few notes down here, so hopefully I will answer the questions as best I can, and let me know if I miss anything. So this large value stipulation, there were two issues: a change in ownership, and then a base year value. The assessor did determine that the initial change in ownership that was reassessed as of February 14th, 1989 should be reversed. Therefore, we re-enrolled the values that were originally on the roll and determined that the change in ownership actually occurred, excuse me, on January 1st of 2013. Some of the things noted here, in 2000, it did get put onto Prop 8, onto a temporary reduction in value. And then that continued for several years. So that's why the values don't look like they track, like they're a Prop 13 value. Let's see, let me look at the, and then the other thing that you might notice is there was kind of a blip in the Prop 13 values, and there was actually a clerical error that was put on the roll. The assessor never discovered it, the applicant never appealed it, and so at this point in time, it's beyond the statute of limitations to go back and correct that clerical error. Therefore, we're required to just put the originally enrolled value back on the roll for these stipulations. So there's no method to correct that clerical error at this point. So if you have any other questions about any anomalies you might see, we'll do our best to answer those.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hill.
I guess it's my turn?
Yep.
Okay. There's a number of stipulations going from 90 to all the way to the present, along with an overview. And I'll give you a quick overview, and then I'd be glad to go over details. But let me start. And Brendan, can you start by putting up the individual stipulations? Is that possible? Because this can only really be seen if you see it stipulation by stipulation.
Yes, just a moment. We'll get those on the screen. And what would you like to start with?
Yes, start
89?
with 89. And so the thing I'm going to point out here is that on the existing roll, it was 416, which apparently was a change of ownership, and now they reduced it to 333,968, which is probably the previous roll plus the 2%. So they've canceled that that transfer. Now the only thing I'm pointing out here is plus or minus, it's about $100,000 difference in valuation. And it's only on, the other thing is, it's only on the land. The improvements didn't exist at this time. So I'm gonna, if we go to 90, 91, same thing. This is CPI. 91, 92, same thing, land only. And then on 92, 93, can you put that up there? Oh, or do you already have it? It's pretty
Got it up.
small. Okay, you see the existing roll is 441, 462 on the land, and then the stipulated value is doing away essentially with that transfer. And the improvements are 895, and the assessor is recommending 902, 980. So now my first question is this, and it is also to County Council. The improvements, the value of the improvements are set by the new, I'm assuming this is new construction, are set by the new construction. So that's the base value on that improvement. And even though it's only a $7,000 difference, I'm not sure, and County Council can look at this, whether you can reset that improvement value once it's been set. So that's my first question.
I think I can speak to that. The issue with these earlier year appeals, the assessor did not go in and do a new valuation. Rather, we undid a change in ownership event. So by undoing that change in ownership event, the only value that we could put on the roll was what was previously on the roll had that change in ownership never been worked. So these values aren't really, they weren't up for negotiation
right.
with the applicant.
That's my question. Why isn't the improvement value, which is new construction, the same 895?
Because the assessor's obligated to put the originally enrolled values back on the roll.
I'm sorry.
At this
enrolled
point in,
value wasn't 895, it was with 2% or something?
The originally enrolled value prior to working the incorrect change in ownership. So we valued the property at its Prop 13 base year value.
Right.
And then we came in and we did a change in ownership. We changed the values, and those values were 441, 462, and 895 on improvements. Then we came in and through the stipulation process, we discovered that we never should have worked that change in ownership.
But only that's only on the land, right?
No, the change in ownership applies to the whole property. So when we undid this change in ownership, we had to revert back to the prior enrolled values, which the prior enrolled values were the total of 1257389. So we enrolled something. We came in and we said, oops, we forgot a change in ownership, and we enrolled something else. And then when we realized that that change in ownership didn't apply, we had to go back to what was on the roll.
To be honest, I don't understand, because if it's obvious from this, in 91, there was no improvement. In 92, there is an improvement, and I'm not sure why 895, which is the old value of the improvement, again, occurring after the new construction or after the transfer of ownership, why it wasn't the stipulated value on the improvement portion.
The 895 was the value that was enrolled due to the change in ownership. And so that wasn't the originally enrolled value. When we do the stipulations, the enrolled full value is the enrolled full value at the time that we do the stipulation. There was a prior enrolled value, which is what we're stipulating to. But the stipulations have to reflect what's on the roll at the time that we do the stipulation, or the auditor doesn't know how to correct it properly. So we don't put the original value, we put the value on the roll at the time. The enrolled full value
wasn't on the roll at the time?
That was the enrolled value at the time that we did the stipulation, but not the originally enrolled value before we worked the change in ownership.
Okay, I'm gonna skip that for the moment. And then if you go to 93, you can see that the seat, let's go to 93 if you will. It's just 2% of the values. Then 94 is the same thing, 2% of the value. 95, I'm just going through, even though, I mean, it's 2%. And then in 99, there's a Prop 8 on there, and they're enrolling essentially something around that Prop 8 value. But that's not a change of ownership, is that correct, for 1999?
No, the change in ownership occurred in 2013, as of January 1st of 2013.
So that's just it's close to the Prop 8. Same thing for 2000, same thing for 2001. Let's see, 2002. Although I have some minor questions on all those years. And 2003. So let's go up to 2004. Okay. And it looks like what was enrolled was 1,630,000 as a Prop 8 before we've changed. Are we, let's see, are we okay? Before they were, before there was any kind of discussion of the transfer. And the assessor is asking for a value of 1,052,000. And he's left the improvement value at 600,000. And I'm wondering why, if that's the base, is that supposed to be the base value? If that is supposed to be the base value, shouldn't it be the 895 factor? Was it 895 or 985? I can't remember. It was 895. Why isn't it the 895 factor? So we're looking at the stipulated value that apparently we're going to do away with the Prop 8 and put on a the base value factor. The land is the 451, but they've left the improvements at 600,000, not 895 factored.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
There was a clerical error in the originally enrolled values, which we're reverting back to. There was a clerical error in the base year value that was enrolled. And so we can't go back and fix it. You're right. It should have probably been a different number. We should have probably taken that 895 and factored it for whatever reason. What was initially enrolled back then was wrong. And there's no mechanism to fix it now, because all we're doing right now is we're saying that that change in ownership didn't happen. And so we're reverting back to what was enrolled. And I agree, there was a clerical error in what was enrolled initially, but we can't correct that now.
No. What is enrolled is fine. It's apparently a Prop 8. I'm talking about what's being stipulated to. my question is this, why isn't what's being stipulated to 451, 428 land, 1,125,446 improvement? Because yes, you can't fix you can't change that 1,000,063, but you're recommending that we put in a number that doesn't reflect even the base year value factor.
The stipulation reflects what was on the roll prior to working the incorrect change in ownership.
No, that's 930 was on the roll, not what 600,000 wasn't on the roll. 600,000 was on the prior roll, but that was a prop 8. That wasn't a new base value.
I could just clarify for the board members, this is actually an appeal of an escape assessment. So they do match up, that's something we verify. So the stipulated value was what was on the roll before the escape assessment was processed, which they're now reverting to. And this was what the enrolled full value was, what the value was raised to as a result of that escape assessment. One other thing I'd point out that could make this seem a little strange, the board is not allowed to adjust allocations. Those are locked to the base value of the property. And so the board really is only ever adjusting totals, and then the allocations stick. So over a few year period, if there's a Prop 8 reduction, it may seem odd because the allocation can only be appealed within the first 4 years of owning the property. And if the allocation's not appealed, it is locked in. So it would generally be better to compare totals because we're then breaking out the land and improvement based on allocation. And I don't know if Ms. Hill has something further to add to that to answer the question.
No, I appreciate the clarification.
Well, that's true when both the land and improvements are valued at the same time, but it's not true when the land and the improvements are valued at separate times. I don't see. So you're saying that 600,000 is an allocation based on the land being the change in the land percentage. So we agree that the land was overassessed, and you're saying that somehow the improvement should benefit because they should get the old portion of the land. I mean, if the improvements had been there, I would certainly agree with you. If there was a house there and land there, then they should both rise and fall at the same level. But when they have different dates, different base values, I disagree with you. I would request that the county council look at that issue, that you're saying that even though we valued the land at some 895, there's a rule that now we can't continue that valuation because there's a ratio law, and I don't know that ratio law. I would like to hear from county council on that. Essentially, that's what you're saying, isn't it?
So it's the assessor's opinion that the stipulated full values were the only option of what we could enroll, given that we undid the change in ownership from 1989. That was the only option, was to revert back to what was on the roll when they before they worked that transfer. We don't have any other options.
So and the reason you're undoing the valuation on the improvement, you agree with me, it has a different base than the land. Do you agree with that or not?
I don't know that I could speak to that specifically.
Well,
for this particular appeal, we're not talking about whether or not the values on the roll prior to the change in ownership were correct. We had to make the decision and work with the applicant to determine if was there a change in ownership. And since we agreed with the applicant that there was no change in ownership, the only thing we could do was put the values back on the roll as they were. We didn't look into whether or not it was right or wrong or allocated correctly, because we can't, even if it weren't, we couldn't fix it. So we just, the only thing we were able to do is say, well, there was no change in ownership, so we're gonna revert back.
Okay, well, let me put it in a different way. If we can go to the 2009, 2010, which is after the transfer on the land, but before the new transfer. Can you go to 2009 to 2010? Okay.
Remember, Farino, we do have some applicants waiting that we need to get on. Do you mind if we revisit this after the we address the other applicants?
And maybe we can get an opinion. In the meantime, the county council can give us, if he looks at 2009, 2010, he can give us an opinion on whether you can change a new what amounts to a new construction value after the fact, when there's no evidence that there was a change in that ownership. My point is this: can you change a new construction value that occurred after a transfer if it wasn't involved in that transfer? If that makes any sense, in the county council. Okay, I'll put it a third way in county council. My opinion was there was a transfer on the land that was affected by was there or was there not a transfer. Then there is a new base value for the improvement that was the completion of construction after all that occurred. Here, it had nothing to do. So my question is, can you change that improvement value when it is not affected by that change of ownership? And so then we can go on to the other ones, and then county council can answer that question.
It's my understanding, Board Member Farino, from the assessor, that the assessor didn't go back to revalue the improvements or the land. It is that there had been an enrolled value, and then based on a change in ownership, and Ms. Hill, please correct me where I misstate, then there was a change in ownership, so there was a revaluation that was then entered onto the roll. Now, without there being a change in ownership, the assessor did not go back to revalue the land or the improvements, but went back to the originally enrolled value. Is that correct, Ms. Hill?
That's correct.
So it isn't changing the value of the improvements. It is just going back to the originally enrolled value.
Okay.
And so there was an enrolled value prior to the what we'll call the change in ownership value. And that's what the original value is now what's reflected on the stipulation and then to be enrolled.
And my question to you is that, in my opinion, the new construction, which occurred 3 years after this transfer that we're talking about, is unaffected by that transfer because it's valued as new construction, not as a transfer. It didn't matter who owned it. It was valued as a new construction. So you're totally right. In my opinion, you can't change that new construction. So if it had gone in the other direction and an appraisal had gone from 50% to 100% on the land only, it wouldn't affect the later construction because that has its own base value. And that's set by not the change in ownership. Doesn't matter who owns it. It's set by the new construction and the completion of new construction. The supplemental is actually sent out for the new construction. And so there should be no change to the improvement value other than a Prop 8. That's my opinion. That's the question that I'm asking you to answer is, what allows us to change a new construction base? So think about that. I sent something to Robert, or excuse me, Brendan, and review it, and then we can hear it after we've heard these other cases.
Thank you. So Chair Sisk, that would take us to item number 88, application number 21-10127 for Alvin T. Dickens III. We have Daniel Wiedenhoff of ProTax LLC on Zoom for this item. Mr. Wiedenhoff, are you there? You're currently muted if you are.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Are you prepared to move forward today?
No, I'm requesting continuances on these applications.
Okay. Do you have a date in mind?
I believe the the clerk of the board indicated April 25th.
Okay. Any comments from the assessor's office?
April 25th is fine with the assessor. We would request a proviso that the data be provided within 30 days of today.
Okay, looking for a motion to postpone to April 25th with proviso that any data requested by the assessor's office be provided within 30 days.
So moved.
So that's on,
Second, sorry.
thank you. So that's on the first item. So we treat the other two separately, Brendan?
Yes, please.
Same
for the-
resolution, just three
yes.
different motions?
Yes, so we'll go
Okay.
through it really quickly. And for the vote, Board Member Ferris,
Yes.
Board Member Little,
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, so we can repeat that action on number 89.
Yep, item 21-10132, Mason and Associates. Same story. So we're looking for a motion to postpone to April 25th with the proviso that any data requested by the assessor's office be provided within 30 days.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you.
For the vote, Board Member Ferris,
yes.
Board Member Little,
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item 21-10239, ATH LLC et al. The same procedure as the one before. I'm looking for a motion to postpone to April 25th with the proviso that any data requested by the assessor's office be provided within 30 days.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you.
Board Member Ferris,
yes.
Board Member Little,
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wiedenhoff. You're all set.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Next item 21-10485, Mark T. Tresnak.
Yes, and we have Maureen Tresnak on Zoom for this item. Ms. Tresnak, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Are you prepared to move forward today?
We were, except that what we found in speaking with Brendan is that we were requesting a permanent change to our base here from when we purchased the property, and we must have filled out the form to request accidentally a temporary 1-year change, and so he
Okay.
to fix the application, and we've already submitted all the documentation. So I think we just need to have a revised application and a new date.
Yes, yes. So for the benefit of the board members, the property tax law does not allow an application to be amended without your board's approval. And so this application was filed as a decline of market value appeal, and the applicant has now requested to amend this to be a base value appeal for the change in ownership occurring on January 22nd, 2020. The law requires that your board approve a request for amendment and then that the hearing be continued for a minimum of 45 days. The law does not give your board the option to deny it, but it does require that your board approve it before it can be addressed. So at this time, we have a request from the applicant to amend the application in section 6 to add the selection of box B2 for the January 22nd, 2020 change in ownership.
I approve.
Second.
All right, and
Thank you.
for the vote, we board member Ferris,
Yes.
board member Little,
Aye.
board member Sisk.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And so, as stated, a continuance of a minimum of 45 days is required. Ms. Tresnak, did you have a preference between our upcoming dates? We actually can't do March 28th. That's less than 45 days. Is April 25th all right with you?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Hill?
April 25th is fine. I do believe we've received most of the data for this. I think one thing, I'm not sure if there's anything outstanding, but if there's any additional owner supplied costs, I believe that was one thing that we were looking for. If we could request the board order that be provided within 30 days of today, if that exists outside of what's been provided to us.
That does not exist.
So there is no additional data to be provided to the assessor's office, is that correct?
That is correct. I know that the assessor that we were working with has put some materials together and came out to the home and took pictures and things.
Okay. Ms. Hill, do you have any other items you need requested?
Ms. Ramirez, was there anything else that we needed?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. At this time, I believe I've asked for everything that would be possible, and they provided everything that they had access to.
Okay.
So even though we were requesting the new construction costs, I don't believe the applicant had access to that to provide. So other than that, I believe we have everything with regards to the subject.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion to postpone to April 25th with no additional data proviso.
Moved.
Second?
Thank you.
For the vote, Board Member Ferris,
Yes.
Board Member Little,
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Tresnick. You're all set.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Next application 21-10722 TSAF LLC.
We have Elliot Kimmel of Assessment Appeal Advisors on the line for this item. Mr. Kimmel.
Morning, everyone.
Morning. Are you prepared to move forward today?
We would ask for a continuance. There were a couple other items that the assessor's office made as a request, and so just fulfilling that.
Okay. Do you have a date in mind?
Brendan, what was the one that you suggested, please?
Yeah, you had said April 25th would be your preference when we
Okay.
previously spoke.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments from the assessor's office?
April 25th works for the assessor. We would request a proviso that the data be provided within 30 days of today.
Okay. Looking for a motion to postpone to April 25th with the proviso that any data requested by the assessor's office be provided within 30 days.
So moved.
Second?
All right, for the vote, Board Member
Thank you.
Ferris,
Yes.
Board Member Little,
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kimmel. You're all set. Great. For item 93, board members, so these are the stipulations that were emailed to your board on Thursday. Stipulations are approved as an administrative mass action unless there's any item on this list of routine stipulations that a board member wants to pull for questions. Other than that, the recommended action is to approve all stipulations.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Okay,
Move to-
looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you.
For the vote, Board Member Ferris,
Yes.
Board Member Little,
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so that leaves us with the two items. Would you like to get into the hearing first for the Diageo brothers?
Yes. Does anyone want a 5-minute break?
Yes.
Okay. I knew someone. Okay, so what is it? It's 10:37. Should we re-adjourn at 10:45?
Sure.
Excellent. And can I ask just real quick, Ms. Hill, the assessor's office will start with the presentation, correct?
I believe the assessor does have the burden to prove we should have imposed the penalty.
Okay. While we're on break, just so we can be efficient, I will send everybody the assessor's hearing exhibit, just exhibit A, Ms. Hill, or?
Mr. Ascora will be presenting this case. He'd probably better answer that question than me.
Mr. Escort, would you like the parties to have all exhibits or just exhibit A to start out with?
Good morning, Efren Ascora with the Assessor's Office. Yes, if you can provide us Exhibit A for the moment.
Okay, perfect. So while we're in recess, I will provide everyone exhibit A through Zoom chat. Thank you. Chair Sisk, we're now in recess. Thank you. All right, Chair Sisk, I believe everybody's back. I see Mr. Escora. Mr. Gaida, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, thank you. Let's see. Board Member Freno, just to let you know your microphone is on. Feel free to go ahead and mute that. All right.
It is off or on?
We can hear you, yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. All right. So during the break, I distributed Assessor's Exhibit A through Zoom chat for everyone to bring up. Mr. Escora and Ms. Hill and Mr. Guide, I'm now going to place you under oath. Please raise your right arm. When I complete reading your oath, please state I do. You and each of you do solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give and the matters now pending before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
I do.
All right, turn it over to you, Mr. Escora.
Thank you, Brandon. Good morning, Chair of the board, members of the board. I'm Fernando Escora with the Assessor's Office. So this case it's pretty straightforward. It's a penalty case for a late filing. You turn to the next page, Brandon. We enter a summary of pretty much what the case is about, and we also describe, that we did our due diligence to research all the particularities of this case so we can present today. We move to the next page, to the introduction. I just wanted to briefly mention that we were notified that there was a change in control of ownership. The state notified us that that in this case the applicant, the GDO Brothers Ford LLC, 2 parcels, they changed ownership, or there's a change in control of ownership. They filed the Form 100B with the state on January 8th of 2019. And then we did receive a notice of penalty assessment was sent to the applicant on April 2nd, 2021, is for late filing. And the state is the one to determine that. Just to be specific, because in the past, I know that we have deal with cases when the assessor actually imposes the penalty for failure or for late filing for forms that the assessor sends. But this particular case, we were notified by the state that the applicant was late, so we had to impose a penalty. And yes, the burden of proof is in the assessor's office, because yes, we were required to impose this penalty on the applicant. In summary, and I think that's basically the base of our law, for our decision is Revenue and Taxation Code Section 482B indicates that a failure to file the form BOE 100B within 90 days of the change of control, which in this case it was April 10, 2018. It says that pretty much the code says that in this case is a subject of 10% penalty. On April 20 in 2018, Maria DiGidio, she was the owner of several entities. I believe there were more parcels involved, but the only 2 are in Ventura County, so that's the reason why we see 2 applications. So the owner passed away, and that resulted in changing control, right? We have to go ahead and determine that there was a change of ownership, so we reappraised. So on January 8th of 2019, which is a little about 263 days after the event, the change in ownership statement that Form 100B was filed by the applicant with the State Board of Equalization for all the entities that were affected. And again, I know it's probably a little redundant, but the Board of Equalization notified the assessor on November 2nd that year that there was a change in control, and a 10% penalty needed to be applied again pursuant to Revenue and Taxation Code, Section 482B. We can go to the next page. So basically, I'm gonna go over the requirement to file, to change in ownership statements. It's pretty much any person or legal entity that acquires control of another legal entity is responsible for filing a change of ownership statement within 90 days. And as I mentioned before, time frame when the applicant filed was way beyond that deadline of the 90 days that were imposed by the law. Then I'm gonna read pretty much 48.1A. Whenever there is a change in control or any corporation, partnership, limited liability company, or other legal entity as defined in subdivision C of section 64, a signed change in ownership statement as provided in 40 subdivision B shall be filed by the person or legal entity acquiring ownership control of the corporation, partnership, limited liability company, or other legal entity with the board at its office in Sacramento within 90 days from the date of the change in control of the corporation. Again, partnership, limited liability company, or a legal entity. The statement shall include a list of all counties in which a corporation, partnership, limited liability company owns real property. And then it goes for the next paragraph, failure to file. What happens when they don't file on time, they have to impose a penalty, or the state has. If a person or legal entity that is required to file a change in ownership statement fails to do so within the 90 days, again, the 10% penalty has to be applied based on the taxes applicable to the new base year values, and it's required to be added to the assessment roll, which is section 482B of the Revenue and Taxation Code. And I'm just gonna go over that section a lot to see that the assessors has no leniency so we cannot skip it. We have to comply with what the law prescribes, and it's coming from the state. If a person or legal entity required to file a statement described in section 480.1 or 480.2 fails to do so within 90 days from the earlier of one, the date of the change in control or the change in ownership of the corporation or other legal entity, or two, the date of a written request by the State Board of Equalization, a penalty of 10% of the taxes applicable to the new base year value reflecting the change in control or change in ownership of the real property shall be added by the county assessor to the assessment made on the roll. Again, I know it's redundant, but I just wanted to point out, that we're going over this because the assessors has no lenience. It's not at their discretion that we can cancel or pay the penalty. If we move to the next page, it talks about the penalty abatement. To abate a penalty assessment, a person or legal entity needs to establish to the satisfaction of three elements to the assessment appeals board. And it goes to the three elements. The late filing was due to reasonable cause. The late filing was due to circumstances beyond the SEC's control, or the late filing occurred notwithstanding that the exercise of ordinary care in the absence of willful neglect. Sorry, I got some allergies here. Section 483C1 reads, if a person or legal entity establishes to the satisfaction of the County Board of Equalization or the Assessment Appeals Board that the failure to file a change of ownership statement within the time required by subdivision B of Section 482 was due to reasonable cause and circumstances beyond the SSC's control and occurred notwithstanding the exercise of ordinary care in the absence of willful neglect, and has filed the statement with the State Board of Equalization, The County Board of Equalization or the Assessment Appeals Board may order the penalty be abated, provided a person or legal entity has filed with the County Board of Equalization or the Assessment Appeals Board a written application for abatement of the penalty no later than 60 days after the date on which a person or legal entity was notified of the penalty by the assessor. In 2015, the Assembly Bill 571 was approved by the board, which amended Section 48.3 of the Revenue and Taxation Code. And whereas, existing law had authorized the County Board of Equalization or the Assessment Appeals Board to order the penalty abated for failure to file a specified property statement or change in ownership statement. However, if the SEC establishes to the satisfaction of the County Board of Equalization or the Assessment Appeals Board that the failure, again, to file a property statement was due to reasonable cause and not due to the willful neglect, and the SEC has filed a written application for the abatement of the penalty as provided. Now, Assembly Bill 581 authorized the penalty to be abated if the SEC established that the failure to file a property statement or change of ownership within the specified time period was due to reasonable cause and, again, circumstances beyond the SEC's control. And so we included in the next page, and this will be further explaining in the Exhibit B. I don't know if you can upload it now, Brandon, as Exhibit B. Then I'm just gonna go over the arguments in support and then the arguments in opposition. According to the author of the Assembly Bill, Assembly Bill 571 aligns existing penalty forgiveness provisions in the Revenue Taxation Code, sections 463 and 483, to mirror the language used in section 4985.2. The consistent standard will provide individuals with an opportunity to have their penalty waived if they are able to demonstrate that the failure to file was due to circumstances, again, beyond their control. And then it goes for the arguments in opposition. According to the Executive Committee of the Trust and Estate section of the State Bar of California, this bill's effort to make penalty abatement consistent may make abatement more difficult for taxpayers to obtain. These are just some arguments, again, in support or in opposition as to the removal of the penalty. And Taxcom argues that the current standard is well established in law and sufficient to establish grounds of it, a penalty that accounts for unusual circumstances that a surviving spouse, child, or personal representative can face after the death of a property owner. Taxcom also asserts that requiring abatement only on circumstances beyond the SEC's control doesn't fit in the particular circumstances of the successors of an entity coping with a property owner's death, where successor property owners are trying to establish control potentially valuable property or a legal entity shortly after death. I'm gonna go to the next page, and then let's go to Exhibit C. And I'm gonna summarize, what Exhibit C talks about. But I have more. In Exhibit C, will show you more like a better detail of the circumstances when penalty can be abated. But basically, if you go to the in that page, number 1, the burden of proof is on a taxpayer to establish reasonable cause for abatement of either penalty. So pretty much the burden of proof is on the taxpayer to show that reasonable cause exists to support abatement of the penalty. That's what this paragraph is talking about. And I'm going to go to number 2. that same page, I'm sorry, in the same page, number 2, of taxpayers' responsibility to file, return, and or respond to notice and demand or request for information. So, I mean, here it talks about, and this may not be the case, but it's just trying to be comprehensive. Even if the taxpayer is unaware of a filing requirement, ignorance of the law is not an excuse for failing to file a timely return. And you can see how we have the appeal of J. Morrison, Lila G. Forbes 67-SBE-042. Where the board decided on that case, that ignorance of the law is not an excuse for failing to file a timely return. Then in the next page on Exhibit C, number 3, it goes and says difficulty in obtaining information or documents needed to file a return, respond to the notice and demand, or respond to the request for information. And this document goes and says generally a taxpayer's inability to file a return by the due date provide a timely response to a notice and demand or furnish requested information because of lack of necessary information or document is not considered reasonable costs. And then we have the President of the Appeal of William T. and Joy P. or 68-SBE-010 from back on February 5th, 1968. And this pretty much concludes my presentation. I mean, the assessor did their due diligence in researching the specifics of the case. We found no evidence of clerical error or any situation where it was under the assessor's discretion to remove the abate penalty. So we just pretty much recommend that the penalty be sustained because we don't believe there is reasonable cause or a circumstance where the penalty can be abated. And it's summarized in the last paragraph I read, that a taxpayer's inability to file a return by the due date is not considered a reasonable cause. Does the board have any questions for me?
I have none.
Chair Sisk, you're muted. Chair Sisk, it looks like you're speaking, but you're muted.
I'll blame that on my allergies. Sorry about that. Now it's time for the applicant to ask questions of the assessor's office presentation.
Mr. Gaida, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so the chair asked if you have any questions of the presentation that the assessor has made.
No, I don't have any questions. I mean, it's just a straightforward argument, that we're making in that, with these trust administrations post-death, the 90 days in most cases, in a lot of cases, on the really complex matters.
Okay, we'll get to your presentation next. Excuse me, sir, we'll get to your presentation next. If you have any questions, the assessor's presentation, now's the time.
No.
Not. Okay, any questions from the board of the assessor's presentation?
Gotcha.
None? Okay. Now it's time for the applicant to present their side.
Yes, and board members, but before we get into that, I should have explained this before we started. We talked about the burden of proof. The burden of proof determines, per the law, who gets to open and close the hearing. In this case, the assessor had the burden of proof. So how our hearing format works is the party with the burden of proof presents their case. Then the applicant cross-examines them and asks questions. Then the board asks questions, and then we repeat the process with the applicant presenting, and then they will be asked questions by the assessor and your board, and then we'll go to closing statements. And the party with the burden of proof makes their statement last. One thing I will note, this is a unique situation. In penalty cases, the burden shifts. So now that the assessor has shown that they properly imposed the penalty, the burden now shifts to the applicant to prove that it should be abated. And so the applicant will make their presentation now. And because the burden has shifted, the assessor will make their closing remarks first, and then the applicant will have the final opportunity to make remarks because they now bear the burden. So I just wanted to take a moment to clarify that. Mr. Guida, would you like the board to have both exhibits 1 and 2 of your presentation at this time?
Please.
All right, just a moment. I will submit that into the record. All right. Right, we've got your exhibit, starting with the letter that you've addressed to the board is now on the screen, and I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Guida.
Okay, thanks. Like I said before, this is just one of these trust administrations post-death that we deal with quite a bit, and the reality of responding to the 90-day period and filing an estate tax return and gathering information and getting appraisals done. It's in a lot of cases, it's just not possible to get the BOE 100 filed within 90 days. And this is a perfect example of that. You can see in the letter, there were over 40 properties that we had to deal with. It was a highly illiquid estate. We knew there was going to be an estate tax. We didn't know how much. So we had to get an appraiser to come in and appraise these properties that were across the country. We didn't get hired until 35 days until after the decedent's death. The daughter who hired us, who was a representative of the estate, obviously it's an emotional time for her. She's going through a lot of files, and just by the volume of what we had to deal with and the pressing tax issues of paying the estate tax, it just, time goes by. Sorry, there's a leaf blower outside my room. So it took a long time to get all of the documents that we needed to make a determination of which entities where there was a change in control. It wasn't obvious just by looking at the documents, the internal partnership and LLC documents. There are multiple family members who were owners of these entities. We didn't know in some cases whether or not the property was purchased in the entity or if there were original co-owners that transferred the property into the entity. So we do feel that we showed reasonable cause, and that we always knew that there was going to be an obligation to file the BOE 100, and we talked about that at the beginning of the administration. So it wasn't a case of us discovering that we needed to do that. It was just a matter of time that it took before we were able to actually make that determination, and we did file it as soon as we possibly could. It's, as you can imagine, there's not, things don't always go as smoothly as you hope, especially with a very complex administration. It takes time to get all these documents, and you are dealing with people, and it is an emotional time, especially in the first few months after someone's death. So we made every reasonable effort to do it. I think we exercised ordinary care as far as we could. We filed well within a year. We took the obligation seriously, and we made the filing as soon as we possibly could.
Okay, is that the end of your presentation?
Yep.
Okay. Does the assessor's office have any questions of the applicant?
Not questions, just to reaffirm that date of the filing when the Form 100B was filed on the state. Can you remind us?
Yeah, I have to look at the, it was in January. It was right about the time when the estate tax payment was due. I think it was January 8th of 2019.
Okay, thank you. That would be my only question.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions of the applicant's presentation?
I have one question.
Sure.
Is an assess or an appraisal required for the filing of this B100 form?
No.
Okay.
The appraisals were all required to determine the estate tax liability on the estate tax return, but not for the BOE 100.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from board members?
I have one. Does the applicant's office, is this your particular line of business?
So we're an estate planning firm, and part of that we do trust administrations regularly. So I answer your question is yes.
Okay, so you are familiar with the filing process?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Typically at this time, the board will convene behind closed doors or a closed
Closing
session.
statements.
Yes. Okay, yeah, gosh.
Yeah, so because the burden
This is so
switched,
fast.
because the
Yeah, the
burden
burden
switched, the assessor will make their closing statements first, and then Mr. Guida will have the final word.
Okay, that's right there. Okay, so it's time for the for closing arguments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Efren Ascora with the Assessor's Office. I believe that I summarized the case. The assessor did their due diligence. They researched the different cases that were affecting, different circumstances that affected this case. We found no basis on the law to abate the penalty. And then just by reading and going over the guidelines from the State Board of Equalization, is gonna summarize the last paragraph I read in my presentation. Taxpayers in ability to file a return that return by the due date and provide a timely response to a notice and demand. If that happens because of a lack of necessary information or documents, that's not considered reasonable cause. So the assessor recommends the board to sustain the imposition of that 10% penalty. Excuse me, my allergies are pretty bad. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Guida, it's time for your closing statements.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just to summarize, I think that we have met the three elements in that, you know, we made every good faith effort to comply with the filing, which is, you know, as everybody knows, is as a self-reporting filing that, you know, I am sure there are many people who don't, you know, follow the law and do what they're supposed to do and file these when there's a change of ownership. But we've always taken that responsibility seriously. You know, we tell all of our clients that they need to report. We did that in this case as well. Just happened to be a little late due to the volume and the complexity of the trust administration. So we would request, you know, respectfully that this penalty be waived.
Okay, thank you. Typically, we will go behind closed doors in closed session and deliberate on the facts and make our decision at that point. And we will inform Brendan of our decision after that fact. And Brendan will inform both parties of our decision. But I don't quite think we're ready to go behind closed doors yet because we have one more item we still need to address.
Correct. Remaining on your board's calendar is item numbers 55 through 83 for 211669 through 211697 North Duesenberg Associates LLC. And again, this is a request for approval of a large reduction stipulation agreement. And I don't know if Ms. Hill or Ms. Gardner had anything to add to their prior clarification. Do we want to start with Ms. Gardner? Did you have anything?
I don't have anything else to add.
Ms. Hill?
I don't have anything else to add.
Ms. Board Member Farino, are you satisfied with the answers you've received on the questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
No, to be honest, no, I'm not. And I believe the middle stipulations are wrong. And I can gladly go back over them if you want, but I guess I did write out my three main points. The land, which was the subject of the transfer, its base value was set in 1989. Or it originally set in 1989. The assessor's office received new documentation. They declared that not an appraisable event. So they've reset the land value to an older base. But there was no improvements at that time, so you can't set the base on the improvements that don't exist. Then somewhere around 1992, some new structure was built. There was probably a date of completion. At that time, the new construction value was set at $895. It's unaffected by what happens on the land because its base was set as of that date. In the middle years, somewhere around, I think it was 2000 or so, there was Prop 8s put on this property. Prop 8s, for maybe the new members, are reductions in valuations based upon a drop in value below your base value. And so what you get, and I think the Ventura Assessor's Office sends it out, is you'll get two notices. You'll get a notice saying your base value is this, but because your market value is lower, we're enrolling the market value. But that doesn't set any kind of new base, the lower. So if you bought like in the peak of the market at $1 million, and then value went down to 800,000, then you get the $800,000 valuation, but that doesn't set a new base. It's just a 1 year slice. So if you would put up 1995 on this assessment.
It's just a moment.
Okay, you can see that the stipulated value is $1,323,000. There's no question on the land. We know that there was a transfer that has been ruled to be non-reappraisable, so that should go down in value. But at that time, the improvements are set at $950,638. So from there on forward, it should get 2% each year, just like any other property. If you go then to the next year, it's 2000, or not the next year, the 2000 year, you see that the land value, the land value has gone up to 2%, but the improvement value has dropped down to $555,000. Now, really, there should be two values there. There should be the 895 adjusted for the 2% valuation, and then this 555, which is really a Section 51 value. It's not the new base value. There's been no change that would cause you to reappraise the improvement. So that should be a market data review. Why it's changed from the 955, I have no idea. But that 555,000 is a $400,000 drop. Makes no sense other than a Section 51 where somebody's mixing values. They're putting in the improvement value from 2000, the existing one, and somehow factoring it. But there's nothing that occurred that would change that. It's not too much of a problem because it's right around, other than you mismark it as a base year change. It should be still a Section 51. Same thing for 1999. It gets to be a problem when you go up to 2005, 2006. We go to that. You can see the land has gone down. Again, no problem. What's on the roll is obviously another Prop 8 value. And they've requested that the 930 improvement value should be reduced to 612, 633. but that's just a made up number. That has nothing, that's not the base value. What's the base value is the 895 plus CPI, which is around, I put 1,082,000, although the CPI might be a little off there because there's number of rolls in between. But it's over $1 million, which gives the total at 1,000,005, something like that. When I first did it, I came up with 1,147,954 as the incorrect improvement value. So that, what would that be? Ignoring all the Prop 8s, just taking the land at its new value, it's going back in its base, and its improvement as of the date of completion comes with a value of 1,006,800. So that 1,006,800 should be the value that is enrolled. The 1,073,000, it's just, it's a wrong number. There's no other way to say it. And I think what happened is somehow they did this by computer, or they did this some way, and they carried over in the improvements a Prop 8 improvement value times the CPI. And those errors go forward into 2006, 2007. Now, in some of these years, the property probably is going to have to get a Prop 8. And 2008, all the way up to, same thing in 2009. And then again, 2010, 2011. Again, they've enrolled an improvement value that to me makes no sense, and I honestly believe is totally wrong. And when you say that, well, there was a change in ownership, there was no change in ownership in the improvement. That wasn't even built at that time. You're up to 2012 and 2000, all the way up to 2013.
Okay. Do you have any specific questions at this point?
No.
Okay.
I just wanted to go over my points.
Okay, thank you very much. And I believe we're, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Speak briefly. From what I understand, how Ms. Hill explained it is there was a clerical error, and the 895 figure is sort of an incorrect figure. So you can't do mathematics on an incorrect number. So I understand the frustration. However, I realized that the assessor had to deal with the bottom line and the improvement and the land value together, and then apply the appropriate ratios. Sometimes they're 60-40, but they're in that range usually. So I understood it as there was an error. They worked from the bottom line up and adjusted those numbers. And the error way back when, I think it was in 92, when the new construction happened, they could not change that because of the statute of limitations. So you cannot change based upon an incorrect figure, which was the error. Am I correct, Ms. Hill?
Yes, I think that's a good summary. Just to really simplify the issue on this application it was really just for the 1989 through 2013 roll years. The only thing we were able to look at with the application was the change in ownership. Once we made a determination that change in ownership didn't exist, we simply had to enroll the values that had been on the roll prior. And as you've stated, there was a clerical error on the roll. It wasn't really up for us for discussion at this point, because they can't appeal that number. It's too late. So yeah, there was a clerical error that got carried forward, and it is what it is at this point.
Okay, thank you for explaining.
Thank you, Ms. Hill, or Little. Okay, I'm looking for a vote to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
The vote, Board Member Ferris.
Yes.
Board Member Little.
Aye.
Board Member Sisk.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Chair Sis, there are no other items of business. If you'd like to adjourn to closed session.
Okay, it is 11:25 and court is adjourned. We'll be in closed session and we will inform Brandon of our decision once we are finished. Thank you very much.